they usually schedule those out like 2 weeks after the procedure. And I'm like, really? So I hope I have a
Well, is that, so that may be how they do it normally then, as opposed to because there's no beds.
It's
I don't know, it's just.
she said it's because of COVID, beds, and basically employees, staffing.
Yeah. Well, if it's if they find something life-threatening, I cannot imagine that they would send you home. So, and just ask them that, make yourself feel a little bit better.
And I got all my paperwork yesterday.
For the angiogram?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they want, a COVID test done 5 days before, which I'm like, 5 days before, a lot can happen between, because it's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. They want me to get tested no later than Christmas Eve morning, they said. I'm like, okay, a lot can happen between there since it's a holiday, but, whatever.
Well,
You did feel a pulse, right?
yes.
Oh, okay.
I will be keeping good thoughts in my mind for you on the 29th.
All right.
And just know, it's like when I send patients to the hospital to get an ultrasound for a blood clot in their leg. I tell them, if they let you go home, then there was no clot. So I'm sure that if they see something life-threatening when they do the angiogram, they're not sending you home. So.
How do you know if that's something that you need to be concerned about?
What?
This. Is that like a blood clot, or how do you know?
No,
Blood clot.
how a deep, well, it might be a little superficial varicose vein or blood clot in your
Okay.
leg, but how the blood clots that we worry about, people will describe their calf in the back is hot and rigid and extremely painful.
Oh, okay.
And, when you see that, sometimes it's just a muscle strain, but you have to rule that out because those are the clots that will break off and go to your lungs and kill you. So we don't take chances with those.
No, I was just curious. Because
Yeah.
I keep seeing that spot, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it feels like a little bit of a superficial vein or like a little varicose vein. I wouldn't be too worried about that. The deep veins are in the back of the leg that we worry about.
Did you have a good Hanukkah?
I did. It was, kind of uneventful. It's not a major holiday. It's not as big a deal to Jewish people as Christmas is to Christian people.
Oh.
It only became a big gift-giving holiday because all the little Jewish kids felt left out.
Okay.
So
Well,
it became a
like-
gift-giving holiday.
My nephew had passed away. His wife is Jewish,
Mhm.
and they have, 3 daughters. And she's posting every day the Hanukkah gifts they opened and the pictures, and
Yeah.
they had a lot of family there, though. And I know us as a family for Christmas are discussing, okay, if we do get together, how many, if we don't,
Yep.
And she's coming in from Chicago with her girls.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, everybody's got everybody on the mind, what's the best thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'll go ahead and start over on the right foot.
That's it.
trim off a couple of these calluses here. Good. It's a tough time of year, especially with COVID. You know, everybody trying to figure out what their family protocols are going to be and how many is too many and
Yeah.
so that can be tough.
Yeah, everybody I know, well, 3 people I really know. My my stepdaughter and her husband, and then my friend, they all got COVID right around Thanksgiving. They're the only ones that I know that don't have shots. They all got COVID, and I was really like, you know, her husband had gone, was gonna be deer hunting, and I was like, that's normally when I come and see her and stuff, and I'm like, okay, you know, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, at least come out for a day or whatever. And then she's like, you know, I haven't been feeling good. And I really pushed her just to go in and get tested. And then she's like, oh, I came back positive. I'm like, okay, and now your husband is up deer hunting with how many people? And then he came home and of course tested positive. And I'm like, okay, you should just... And then my friend tested positive. I'm like, okay, all of you. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and I don't think anybody's doing any contact tracing anymore, if they ever did.
Right, and that's how my sister and I were trying to figure out, like, how did my stepdaughter and her husband get it, and where did, you know, the last time were they together? Because he took off deer hunting, like, on a Saturday. She tested positive by Wednesday. She had symptoms by Monday. He was saying he was fine. But when he came back, he wasn't feeling good. And it's like, they were like just all these factors we were trying. And it's like, okay, the only thing that they did together before he left was they had to go shopping for a washer and dryer. And it's like, but their friend was with them and she never got sick. So, you know, it is interesting. You would like to find the trace element of how did they get it and what, you know.
Yeah, and that may never happen. You know, you would like to think you could trace it back. And how come somebody in contact with that person got it and somebody else didn't? I think there's still so much we don't know.
And their sons never got it. They moved themselves onto a totally different part of the house, and but one night I couldn't get a hold of her, and she normally would call me every day or text me like, okay, this is what's going on. So thank God grandsons have cell phones or old enough. So I text my 13-year-old grandson. I said, hey, what's going on at your house? Oh, they've been sleeping all day. Haven't even seen them move. They're in the basement. They're, you know, I'm like, okay. Just want to make sure everybody's, you know, and he's like, oh yeah, me and, you know, his brother, they're playing games. They're just fine. It's like, okay. And so then they had to stay home the next week from school. It's what the school had asked.
Right.
And, but yeah, otherwise they never got it, which is good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Back up here.
So, but yes, and then now with the other variant of what is it, the Omicron? I don't know.
Omicron, yeah. Well, and they're saying from, you know, we don't know, but they're saying that it's, while it seems to be more contagious, it seems to be a milder illness.
Right.
And still, you know, if you've been vaccinated, your chances of ending up in the hospital are way less, so. Anyway, okay.
I'm just glad I'm not a scientist.
You're not what?
I'm just glad I'm not a scientist, because it would drive me nuts. I mean, it drives me nuts not being a scientist and wondering, but to be a scientist and working on stuff like that, you're like, oh, gotta find the answer.
Well, you know, and for this type of virus, they've been working on it for 20 years for this kind of vaccine. Now, are you not wearing socks today?
No, they're right there.
Oh, that's right, I took them off, didn't I? I am gonna put on a thicker lotion today
Okay.
than we usually do, because your feet are super dry. Part of that's the diabetes, part of it is that it's winter in Minnesota and everybody's got the heaters going, and the air is really dry, but really try and get lotion on these more frequently, okay?
Uh-huh. At least I'm wearing socks more.
Yeah,
My family got on my case about going barefoot in my apartment.
right, as
So
a
I'm at least wearing socks or Crocs or something.
the Crocs are way better, because if you step on something sharp, it'll go through your socks and you won't know it.
Right.
At least with the Crocs, you've got a little bit of something, you know, between your foot and the ground. So have a wonderful Christmas,
Oh, thank you.
however you end up doing it. And we'll see you next year.